The recent federal budget announcement has drawn mixed reactions, which media outlets have highlighted. On April 16th, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau presented a budget titled Generational Fairness, which, considering most of the announcements, seems to be addressing the concerns of younger demographics, especially Gen Z and Millennials. Today, we'll discuss the impact of this budget on Gen Z and why it's important for them. Joining me is Matt, Paige, and Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So let's talk about what this means for my generation. But first, I am curious, why do you think Gen Z and most millennials, I think too, not look at the federal budget or care? Why? That tells me all I need to know. Wait, let's start with
I'm
Paige.
screwed either way, whether I read it or not. I mean, I don't know.
Do you just feel like, what's the point? It doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I grew up in a household where, like, my parents were never bothered with any of that stuff, and they didn't instill that in me, and it's not something I'm interested in. I'm not saying it's right, but...
How much does the flow of just random information from media sources play a role in you just being almost, is it like exhausted? You had mentioned that to me before.
Yeah, and I think that if I do hear something and it catches my attention, I'll dig deeper. Like, I will go down the rabbit hole if it's something I'm interested in. It's not something that I'm just need to absorb.
Matt, why do you think, real quick?
I feel like as the older that I've gotten, the more
okay, wise
you
man.
know, wise man. Yeah, the older I've gotten, though, the more I started to pay attention to.
Is it because you're feeling?
Yeah,
you know,
and it's also because like buying property and now getting into that space and seeing it. It really affects all different aspects.
So the new capital gains thing caught your eye.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Yeah.
So Anthony, you said you eat up all the gobbledygook. So I'm curious, can you please break down for Gen Z, my generation, help us break down what is the federal budget? What does it include? Just very surface level.
It's literally a blueprint document of what our economic priorities are going into the next year. That's
Okay.
all it is.
And what are some of the common misconceptions you see from guys like me, Paige, Matt, about the budget?
That they don't matter. That they don't matter. But also that there's only one of them. I don't ever hear people talking about provincial budgets, municipal budgets. There's a lot to it, but I think the most common misconception is if your budget has a deficit, what that actually means, what a balanced budget means, what spending on infrastructure is versus giving disability benefits is. There's a lot of layers and stuff, and unlike some people on the panel, it's fine. I love budgets.
So it's actually going to be interesting. We'll get into like how do we decipher the pros and cons, because that's one thing I was reading through the recent budget, not all of it, it's 400 pages, trying to understand and make something of it, the pros and the cons. Yeah. Do you think that most Canadians should use the federal budget to decide on who they're going to vote for? Is that how you educate yourself?
I would say it definitely helps, and I think it creates room for further education with it, especially for your generation with everything going on with it. I feel getting educated in an earlier stage of life can only bring more helpfulness and resources.
I think we do it a lot without even knowing. Like the YouTube videos we see where CPAC is showing, Jagmeet Singh announce a program, et cetera. Like that's all stuff that's included in the budget. And we saw a lot of the pre-announcements like we don't normally see. I'm curious, why do you think this government categorized this budget as generational fairness? Paige, give me your thoughts.
It sells. I don't know.
It sells.
That's who you need to speak to, though.
Our generation.
Yes.
Okay, Matt, Anthony, what do you think?
In the most nonpartisan way possible is because they're losing that demographic of voters, and they lost them a lot. A lot of millennials and Gen Zs. I'm a realtor, so I work with a lot of people in these demographics, and they are very concerned about the cost of living, the cost of rent, the cost of housing, and the cost of groceries. And they have flocked to one particular political party. I understand why they've done that, and this is the way the government is trying to get them back.
So
why are they out there campaigning? It's almost like there's an election coming.
Well, I was going to say that they're doing a lot of announcements.
Exactly.
The Liberal government's going all over Canada right now. More so than normal. I'm curious, like, what do you think my generation should even look at when deciphering, what their primary reasons are when looking in the budget? Oh, I like this. I don't like this. Like, how do we even know what to look at?
It's tough. I guess that it is tough in terms of like, what do you look at? But one thing that I thought was interesting with the budget was that they're now going to take into account for how much you pay for rent is going to be allocated towards like what you could qualify for a mortgage.
So that's something that you found.
I found that to be extremely interesting.
Okay, so we'll touch a little bit more on this. But when we come back, we'll look at some of the important elements of the budget as well. Stay tuned.